Okay, we're back again, and today we're going to make what we call sweet pickle corned beef. Now what I just did there was to load up the brine pump with a brine solution, which is basically salt and water. Now it's cure salt, because the cure is what you need to make a cured product. So the cure is actually sodium nitrate mixed with salt. So now what I'm doing, I'm pumping about every inch, and you want to pump into every separate piece of meat. So every separate muscle you want to pump brine into. So on the back of this is a beef brisket that I'm pumping right here. So I want to pump in to every part of the muscle. Otherwise, when it cooks, you'll get brown spots. Those brown spots are spots that are not cured. So it's like comparing a roast beef to or actually better, a roast pork to a ham. The ham, as you know, is pink. And a roast pork is kind of I'll say a light brown grayish color. So I'm just, in this pan here, or this bottle, whatever you call it here, container, I've got just some salt water. So it's the brine solution. It's curing salt mixed with water. Now when you're getting curing salt, or a cure for a brine, make sure you read the instructions, because you'll probably, I just squirted myself in the face, which is something that happens when you're doing this. Now you don't want to over pump it to make it blow up. You're kind of adding just enough liquid to get throughout the meat. Bah! That's what happens when you come out. Whew! It tastes good, but it's hard on the eyes. This brisket is probably one of the hardest things to pump too. And if you're wondering what's in that little bucket next to me, that's a beef tongue. Now you're trying to pump about every inch apart and through the meat. This needle's so it only squirts the liquid out for that last, I'll say, 3 inches. So now I'm going to turn and go the other way. That way I just pumped, there's just 2 different sections of meat on here. This is a top part of it, and then there's another part of it that's kind of like on the bottom. So you want to make sure that you get the solution, the brine solution, in both of those sections. And be prepared to get sprayed a couple times. Well, maybe you won't, but I always do. I usually just move the needle about an inch over, same as what we used to do with hams and bacons. And you're just pumping in, like I say, not a whole lot. You don't want to make the piece of meat look like a piece of jello, because that's kind of what it looks like. If you pump in too much, it'll kind of blow up the meat. But make sure you get good coverage. There, this leaked out again on it. Now I actually do this on my wife's cousin's deer meat. We take the shoulder piece of deer and we make corned deer out of that. And he's got a lot of compliments on it. And it's something that even my kids actually like, even in the deer meat. And they all don't eat deer meat. But when it's corned, you can take a chuck, like maybe I don't explain myself right, but it's the front quarter up by the neck, the piece of meat up there on a deer, which is normally put into, well, people will quite often just put it into hamburger or whatever. But if you corn it, you'll probably never make hamburger again out of it. Maybe so. Hamburger is good too. So that's about what it takes to make a beef brisket, corn. Now this actually also, you can see in there the liquids. Actually what happened is I had this in the liquid first, and the only reason was because I ran out of sodium nitrate, the actual cure. And it's actually not straight sodium nitrates, it's cure mixed in with some salt. And so I ran out, so I actually put it just in a salt brine solution up until now. And this is pickling spice. So that's basically all there is in this, is mostly pickling spice and the brine solution, which is basically just salt. You can buy a pre-mixed one also, and the pre-mixed one has got a few more spices in the brine, but I honestly don't think that you need it. Now that's a beef tongue right there. So this is going to be a pickled beef tongue. It's turned red there right now because this also has been sitting in the salt. This thing's actually hard to push, so if you're wondering why I'm pushing it with my hip. When we slice this beef tongue, we'll see if we can fool the kids into eating it, thinking it's lunching meat. So once again, don't pump in too much. Tongue is actually a fairly soft meat, so it'll cure a lot easier. So you kind of move the syringe as you're feeding the pump into it. That way you're getting out those the little holes. Like that's how it more or less sprays, like that. So you're trying to get the brine solution to cover every little part of the meat. So that's the reason why. And that should pretty much do it for that tongue. Now I'm going to take these into the house and put them in the fridge. Then I'll take, they actually should be covered, so what I might do is something different. This is my pot for the tumbler, and it's actually a good idea even to tumble these. So I'll put them both in there, and I'll put just a bit of the brine in, because the tumbler will not need all that brine to make it go into the meat, and there's already liquid in the meat. So once I'm going to tumble that for probably an hour, which is maybe not mean anything to you. Anyways, all you have to do is just put it in a pot. Try and make sure that it's completely covered. What part of it is not covered, just cover it with a piece of saran wrap. So cover the meat with a piece of saran wrap to keep it all moist. In the fridge. Don't forget to put it in the fridge. You got to keep all the meat in the fridge. I actually had a fellow once called me up when I was in the meat business, and he wanted to know what that was growing on his corned beef that he had. All corned, sitting in a brine solution, and under the stairs in his house. So after work that evening, I went over and took a look at it, and it had some nice whitish gray fuzzy stuff growing on it. So underneath the stairs in his basement, which is a lot cooler than upstairs, but it's not a fridge, so it's not cold enough, and it was all mold. So story is, I recommended that he just throw it all into the garbage. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to throw your stuff into the garbage.